My husband and I got in a fight prior to my daughter's birth a week ago, when he casually suggested a paternity test for our daughter when she was born. To be clear, this was completely out of the blue with no warning or reason. I'm a homebody who works remotely with no male friends other than my brother. I told him that he was accusing me of infidelity, and he said he just wanted to be sure, and kept bringing it up until I told him, after 3 days of him asking and the stress starting to make me physically ill, that I didn't want to talk to him and left my brother's house. I called him while I was gone and tried to work it out, but he refused. After all this, I went home the next day to grab some things while he was at work, and I went into labor. I called him 16 times before calling my brother, who called him another half a dozen times himself while on the way to pick me up, and then on the way to the hospital. It was a horrible and traumatic birth. I started crowning in the car, and the doctor delivered my daughter in the back of my brother's van because I was too far along to move me, before rushing me in when I kept bleeding. It was horrible. I hated it all. My brother's wife, who was a nurse, even told me she honestly thought I wouldn't make it. I also opted for a hysterectomy, as it came to that or something more dangerous. I only ever wanted one or none, but my husband wants a large family. I'm trying to bond with my daughter, but it's been hard. The point is that during this, while I was returning from surgery, 10 hours after I called, my husband finally responded and asked why I hadn't answered his call. However, my brother had my phone and was so angry that he said, "This is OP's brother. I'm at the hospital. She didn't make it," and turned it off. My husband rushed over and got there when I had just woken up and started shouting until the security forced him out. And then didn't get to see our daughter until the next day because I was mostly asleep, and apparently they needed my signature to allow him back. My sister-in-law thinks it was horribly cruel, but that he deserved it. But my brother stands by his prank and says that he only gave my husband 10 minutes of the same fear he had felt at my side for 10+ hours. Whenever he sees my husband, he also keeps telling him that I nearly died because we waited for him. My brother used to be mostly indifferent to my husband, but now he absolutely hates him. You can see it in his face whenever my husband enters the room. And he's been visiting a lot because he doesn't trust my husband to care for me while I'm still healing. My husband is furious that he won't apologize and that I won't make him, and yelled at me when I said that the only reason my brother had my phone was because he wasn't there. I'm trying to be empathetic. I know he feels guilty. I've spoken to my therapist, and she says the apathy I'm feeling is likely general and not solely focused on him from lingering shock from the trauma, but didn't say much about the prank. My mother-in-law has been texting me to say that my family is horribly cruel for the prank and that I should go no contact with my brother, and now my husband is saying the same. I just don't know what to do. I'm not in a good headspace. It's been hard to be in the same room with my husband, and I've been sleeping in the guest room with my daughter. He brought up the paternity once, and I just exhaustedly told him to either get out of my face or go stay with his mom if he's planning on stressing me out even more. I really don't feel myself, and yes, I'm taking the likelihood of PPD seriously, and my therapist who has suggested that it may be PTSD too. However, I just want more opinions because I just don't know. Jesus Christ, your husband sounds like a piece of work. Normally I would think what your brother did was very low, but I support this. My brother used to be mostly indifferent to my husband, but now he absolutely hates him. You can see it in his face whenever my husband enters the room. And he's been visiting a lot because he doesn't trust my husband to care for me while I'm still healing. Yes, he watched his sister terrified, in pain, and nearly slowly bleeding to death in agony, all because her selfish man-child of a husband didn't care. Honestly, I think he's being reasonable. If this had happened to me, one of my brothers would probably be in jail now. I mean, I know Redditors are quick to say divorce, but I also can't imagine why you would want this in your life. I'd go no contact with your husband and his family, to be honest. Focus on healing and taking care of your newborn. It sounds like your brother and sister-in-law are in your corner. Your husband wanted to punish you with the paternity test and ignoring your calls. He wanted you to feel bad. He wanted control. He knew the risk of labor at that time. Instead, he got punished by your brother. That's what he is mad about, that he lost. I don't mind what your brother did because I think your husband's behavior in a near-death situation warranted something extreme. Based on your post, your man is not a good person. You're a remote working homebody with no male friends. He gets you to take your brother out of the picture. He has full control to be aggressive and manipulate you when you are isolated, tired, now have a baby, and have little support. The therapist will be the next to go. You should go live with your brother who actually cares about you. Your husband does not. You've gone through major emotional and physical traumas. You deserve better, and so does your daughter. These are her first weeks on Earth. Go no contact with your husband and make him earn his way back in. I'm sorry. After everything that happened, your husband still brought up the paternity test after you gave birth? Christ on a bike, hon. You have so much reason to divorce this guy. What your brother did was pretty horrible, but honestly, under the circumstances, I kinda don't blame him. Your husband is self-centered on the extreme, and his selfishness put your life in danger. Your brother acted badly towards your husband, but was there for you in your time of need, and has continued to show up for you since then. Your crapbag husband was nowhere to be found, and instead of giving you an abject groveling apology for how he let you down, he's doubled down on this paternity test BS and is demanding you cut off a loving, supportive family member when you've just survived a traumatic birth. Who the hell does he think he is? Honestly, I wouldn't listen to anything your mother-in-law says. She raised this butthole. She probably wants you to make up so she doesn't have to take him back at home. But after everything that happened, I don't know if it's worth even trying to forgive him. And he's certainly not acting like someone who thinks his actions need forgiveness. Oh, and you don't need to extend empathy to him because he feels guilty. He should feel guilty. And instead of apologizing for his actions, he's lashing out at his traumatized postpartum wife. What an absolute jerk. Update. So I don't think this will be something we can come back from. I just don't think I'll be able to heal with him because there's no way he didn't know it was me calling, and he still hasn't told me why he didn't answer. I know I thought I wouldn't decide right away, but I actually don't want to forget how terrible it was waiting on him, thinking he couldn't possibly leave me like that no matter how angry he was. I took the time to think of that moment before it all went down, and just how grossly betrayed and scared and alone I felt while the contractions were hitting, and I was on my knees trying to breathe through the pain while waiting on the phone while it rang through. And I just don't think there's any coming back from that. I wouldn't want my daughter to think it's okay to stay with a man who destroyed her trust that way either. I will be contacting an attorney, and will be meeting with them in the coming weeks. We had a prenup, so it hopefully won't be too hellish, I hope. I feel like this situation became even more clear when my friend asked me if I'd still trust him as the one to sign off on my medical papers, and the reaction to that idea was visceral. I wouldn't, and I want him to get off that legality as soon as possible, in fact. There are roommates I had in college I would trust more. I would never have ignored so many calls from him consecutively unless I had told him expressly that I was unavailable at a specific time. And even then, I feel good with my brother and sister-in-law here with me, especially so with her being a nurse and having been there through the birth. It's really helped us bond in a way that we'd never really had time to. I've also finally told my old friends about the baby, and they are alternating to come help me out for the next little while. None of this even touched the paternity test, but I'll get it for the proceedings, I guess. So I guess he'll get what he wanted. Anyway, I'm safe and well, and my daughter is healthy and happy as a peach, and pretty much an angel who is happy to sleep peacefully anywhere, and took to the boob with ease, which is such a blessing since everything still hurts. Just making this decision has an odd weight off my shoulders, and my sister-in-law has been really helping us bond. I, 40 female, married my husband when my stepdaughter Elise, 17 female, was 6 years old. I met Elise when she was just 3. My husband and Elise's mom had been divorced since Elise was a few months old. Elise's mother was already married to someone else when I met my husband. To make a very long story short, Elise's mother started to hate me during my engagement to my husband. Her husband at the time hit on me in front of my husband and his ex. For some reason, she blamed me and not him. Then a few months later, and days before our wedding, she learned he had cheated on her multiple times. I was blamed for this. This led to parental alienation, which my husband and I tried to end, and attempted to prevent it from working on Elise. But it worked very well. Elise was brainwashed by her mom to be as unkind to me as possible. This unkindness turned into some very bad moments, where she pretended not to know me while we were out, even once or twice when my husband was with us and had stepped away. She also refused to acknowledge her half-siblings as any kind of siblings. She has always called herself an only child. She looked me in the eye and wished me dead on 2 separate occasions. Apparently, her mom wished for the same thing. When Elise was 13, a big fight played out in court, but ultimately, Elise's wishes were heard, and she went to live with her mom full-time. She sees my husband 2 Saturdays a month as ordered by the courts. Occasionally, she will see me or her half-siblings while out, and she is as unkind as ever to me when she sees me. Elise had surgery a week and a half ago. She won't be back at school for a few weeks yet. They have been emailing her work for her, but Thursday they had some materials to send her home so she could complete certain projects. I was near the school and was asked by my husband's mother to pick up the materials for Elise. Elise's mother also told me to do it. She did not ask. I told them I felt it would be better for someone else to collect them, seeing as my presence is so unwanted. I told my mother-in-law that I knew I would be facing disrespect the second I got to Elise in her mom's house. Mother-in-law told me I just proved to Elise that I don't care about her at all, and I never loved her unconditionally as a parent when I wouldn't sacrifice for her. Am I the a-hole? Oh, brother, I'm on your side, OP. Quote, mother-in-law told me I just proved to Elise that I don't care about her at all, and I never loved her unconditionally as a parent when I wouldn't sacrifice for her. Your opportunity to love her in any way as a parent was taken away from you, and these women refused to respond to your stated reason for not wanting to be on X's property. Please do not communicate directly with Elise's mother. Anything concerning your stepdaughter should come from and only from your husband. Yeah, you could have picked the crap up for Elise and left it out on the front porch or at the street end of the driveway. A little petty, but practical considering the risk of confrontation if you brought it to the door and knocked. Why put yourself through that? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She is almost an adult and has been treating you like dirt for years. I'm a kind person, but I'm also not a doormat. If somebody is going to be downright mean to me, I don't help them out unless it is a life or death situation. Frankly, the family members who are advocating that you go and help Elise are not doing her any favors either. They're trying to teach her that you can treat people like crap and they should still be willing to do things for you. That's not how life works. I would feel differently if Elise was much younger or if the parents were actively trying to help the situation. Not the a-hole. If the situation with stepdaughter was still new and developing, you might have helped yourself by helping her. But it's not new and developing. It's essentially completed and developed. The damage is done, has been for a while. Ex and stepdaughter have made it abundantly clear you're not welcome in their lives, even going as far as getting a court order to that effect. Unless you're desperate to get them back in your life, you should continue to honor their repeated requests that you disappear from theirs. Good riddance to them. I'm 31 female, and my husband is 36 male. We have 2 boys, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. My husband works in an office, and he has the option to work a few days a week from home, but he prefers not to because he says it's easier to focus in the office. I run a small business from home. I don't have a lot of daily work, just some emails and planning, maybe 3 hours a day. But the business does make about 1/3 of our household income. But my younger son is home all day, and just dealing with him takes a lot of energy. He's really high energy and will probably wreck something if you leave him alone for an hour. And then the older one comes home at 3, and both of them are with me until 8 or 9, which is when my husband usually comes home. A few days ago, I was really tired and didn't make dinner. When my husband came home, I asked him if we could just order something. He was also tired, and we were both short-tempered, so we ended up snapping at each other. He said I should have at least ordered before he got home, and he was hungry. I said I forgot, and it's not fair that food is always my problem. He said that I'm home all day, and I even admit that I don't have much work to do. So I'm basically a stay-at-home mom and should at least take care of dinner. He said he has no idea how much I do every day, and he said he'd handle the kids for an entire day while also working from home, just to prove it should be easy for me. I said sure. So he made the arrangements to work from home yesterday. I slept in, and when I woke up, he was already frazzled from getting the older one ready for school. He ended up having to cancel a meeting to make breakfast and was worried about that. Then when he took another meeting later on, the boys went out to play in the yard and got super muddy and left footprints all over the house, which he then had to mop, and I didn't help at all. By this point, I did feel some sort of guilt, because it was definitely harder for him to take care of work at the same time, but all I wanted was an apology. He said he was doing this to show that I do nothing all day, and if he just admitted he was wrong, I would have helped out straight away. Later on, he had another meeting and told the boys not to bother him for an hour. About 20 minutes in, they got in an argument about something, and our younger one went into my husband's room to complain. He was really loud, and my husband's video was also on. Then he told the kid to leave him alone, but he was upset and crying and wasn't listening. After a few minutes, my husband went back to the meeting and apologized to the other people. When it was finished, he was really angry at me. He said I could see what was happening, and I just watched him struggle without helping. I said all you had to say was please help. He said I shouldn't be so petty and prideful. This probably made him look a bit stupid in front of his manager, but was only a few minutes, and I don't think it was the huge deal he made it out to be. Not the a-hole, and if I'm not reading this post completely wrong, they're your husband's kids as well? So, not sure why point 1 is worded as it is, with the "I don't step in to help when my kids are disturbing him." He said he could handle it. He couldn't. That's on him. Not the a-hole. He deserved a little comeuppance. If he doesn't come home until 8 or 9, you're basically a single mother working part-time while taking full care of 2 small children and maintaining an entire household with little to no help from him. You're allowed to occasionally be exhausted. He was a jerk for making you feel guilty about one dinner. He was an even bigger jerk to insinuate that what you do is no big deal. The icing on his a-hole crap cake was claiming he could easily do it. Duck around and find out. With so many people working from home now, people obviously understand there's a slight possibility a kid will interrupt something. It was likely no big deal to his meeting, and he deserved it. He's seriously saying you shouldn't be so petty and prideful? While you are being petty, with reason, he is the one being prideful. All he had to do was admit he was wrong, and you'd have helped out, but he chose to screw up in front of his manager rather than admit fault. Not the a-hole.